What's up guys, it's Yuli here with a settings video for you, just to clarify a few questions I've been having on my YouTube and just go over some things that I think are important for the game. As you've probably noticed, already some settings have changed. I'm very bad with that, I change all the time, but without that being said, that's mainly just color stuff, not really anything that's core to me as a player. So with that being said, let me get straight into the important stuff. So firstly, controls. I play 1600 DPI. Other viable options are 400, 800, 1200, anything really. I would try stay between that, going up in the 400, so 400, 800, 1200, 1600. There's really no need to go anything higher than that, although some people play higher, like 2000 DPI. It doesn't matter. I play 2% in game, which on 1600 DPI is 32 centimeters. I change this quite a lot. I will play anywhere between 32 centimeters down to as low as 17 centimeters, won't go lower than that. I try to stay between the 30 and 20 centimeter per 360 range, so that means going from between 2 and 5% in game. I switch all the time. 1 is 40. I have played that, however it doesn't feel that nice for movement because low sensitivity doesn't allow for very fast airstrays unless you want to move your arm like crazy, and I just don't really think it's that good in a game like this where you have to be doing 360 jumps all the time. 4% in game. I run this now. I used to be higher because I've been trying rifle aim for the heli, which is pretty much moving your control to the mouse, and then the roll down to your A and D keys. Much better. Highly recommend. Won't stay on that for too long because I'm an infantry player and you guys want infantry stuff. So uniform soldier aiming on, I have this on at 100 with a coefficient of 0%. This keeps your hip fire and your ADS sensitivity the same while playing. 0% will adjust your sensitivity for that slight change in zoom that happens when you ADS on a 1x. Keeping this on a value of 178, I think, will make it so it pretty much just neglects the slight change in zoom. That's what I used to play. However, I am trying out 0% at the moment because that is what I'm playing on Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Yeah, that's pretty much. Decouple aiming from turning on advanced settings. Highly recommend that for playing tanks and other stuff with turrets. That's the most important stuff. Raw mouse input on, you want to make sure you have that on, and these you want to have them at 20% at least, or else your jet turning goes really slow. I've heard. Not a jet player, I don't know, just have it on anyway. Moving on, gameplay. I'll scroll through this for you. It doesn't really matter, it's preference. Advanced options. Now this is the most important thing I think from gameplay. Notice how in the background the icons are getting smaller and bigger. You want this at 100, so then your icons are really nice and big. You can see people when you spot them. It's really useful. The visibility stuff in this category is really just preference. It just changes the opacity of the squad names, your ammo counter, your health, your inventory stuff at the bottom, the main HUD stuff. Moving on. Minimap, you want to have it as big as possible. I don't like it on 200 with the 100% because it looks a bit too big, so I have it there. Usually in the past I have played this with little to no background visibility. I am now changed that to a decent amount of visibility just because I find when I'm playing it gives me a better sense of understanding of where exactly these spotted people or vehicles are in the map. So I don't like having it fully visible, so of course you can see I can still see the ocean behind the minimap. It doesn't really matter, however it does give me that slight advantage of knowing the surrounding area. These values have that small icon visibility, 100%. Rotate with player, I like that on. Without it, it feels really weird. This is just preference, however I've got that on 150 at the moment. The rest of this, the color stuff, it's literally preference, but I will scroll through so you can copy what I've got at the moment. As you probably noticed, they change all the time. It really doesn't matter. Do what feels good for you. However, I will show you it in case you want to copy what I have at the moment. Same with the vehicle HUDs and stuff. Hit indicator. Now in the past I have had this on 100. Big nice hit marker feedbacks. However, at the moment I am trying something a little less intrusive for cleaner gameplay. So I'm trying a little smaller, just saying I've personally just recently made the change for. It's completely up to you, it doesn't matter at all. Same with damage based shape, so if you shoot someone in the foot it'll have a small hit marker, if you shoot someone in the head it'll have a big hit marker. Just the size is really dependent on how much damage you do, that's preference, doesn't matter at all. Same with visibility, just changes the opacity of the hit markers. So I will scroll through so you can see what I've got at the moment. It doesn't matter, I change all the time. Enemy icons like friendly names and stuff, I like small, they don't really matter, you don't need to see them properly. Whereas enemies, I like to have them on nice and big, so when you spot someone, they're very visible, you just beam them through smoke or whatever. Scale with distance, now I still am a bit confused on whether it's 0% or 100%, but I'm pretty sure it's 0%. So what this does is, if you spot a vehicle from across the map, it'll be the same size as if it's next to you. So it doesn't get smaller with the distance that it is. It's really useful for when you're playing jets, helicopters and stuff. It makes everything nice and clear to you on your map. But it's preference, I like it on 0. A lot of good players have it on 0. Friend stuff, not needed. Yeah, sorry, that's world icons, that's the objectives, that's small, don't need to know that too much. And I have it turned off when I ADS, for example, how it disappears, that's just because, and by the way, this counts as world icons, this isn't actually people being spotted, so when you ADS it's not going to get rid of their names and stuff, it's just test range being weird. So enemy icons have all that visible, world icons not as important, and friendly icons, it doesn't really matter, but that's just preference, you can copy that if you want, the rest isn't really important. Audio, either run headphones, war tapes or hi-fi. At the moment I'm running headphones. War tapes is a bit too loud for me sometimes when I'm listening to music, it's preference, I've used it quite a lot. This volume literally just changes on how I want it to be at the time, doesn't really matter, no benefit. VoIP on and off, sometimes I have it on, sometimes I have it off. Oh, excuse me, ignore those voice cracks. Resolution, now this is pretty important. I run either 1600 by 1024 or 4x3, which is 1280 by 960. Have that set to your monitor's max refresh rate for maximum smoothness, and sometimes I run default, which is 1920 by 1080. Literally doesn't matter. This is another 16 by 10 resolution I sometimes run. At the moment I'm sticking with 16 by 1024. Now I have brightness on 100. I like to be able to see my game without it being dim, so I have that on max. Field of view anywhere between max and 80 I think is viable. However, max can sometimes just make people that are far away a bit hard to hit, so I'm playing 95 at the moment. Colorblind settings, I've got this purpley one at the moment. I think it looks nice. It's literally preference, no advantages, no disadvantages. These are my graphic settings on the right. Now this won't really affect performance. The anti-aliasing might affect performance at the moment. You can turn that off if you want. I just like to not have very jagged edges in my game, so I have both of these anti-aliasing settings on max. Mesh quality, have on ultra always. It just makes faraway objects more detailed. It doesn't really affect performance at all. Everything else on low for maximum performance. Now key bindings, they're all pretty weird. I'll scroll through my on foot ones just so you guys can see. It doesn't really matter. However, the most important thing that I have done is toggle primary on F. So what that does is, instead of scrolling to switch weapons, I can press F and I'll switch between my pistol and my main gun, so that makes slithering much easier. I'll put a tutorial link of rookies that I learned to slither off in the description. It's very nice and simple to learn. It's actually not simple, it takes a while to get, but once you've learnt how it works, it's very easy to hit consistently. Not like me, I'm bad. But yeah, that's pretty much the important in-game settings. Now moving on, I will cover my reshade settings. Reshade is a software you can install on any game at all. It pretty much gives you you hit home key on your keyboard to open up an overlay, and you've got options to change specific color stuff to make your game look nice. So for example, I will show you, this is what it looks like without it. This is default game with no reshade, and this is one of the presets I have made myself. So big improvement in my opinion. Looks nicer, definitely highly recommend. I'll put a link to that in my description. However, the video that I made, now it's important to cover this thing X here. So this has been a very controversial thing at the moment. Battlefield Agency, which is a community that some servers uses, their anti-cheat plugin, they do ban your account if they see you using this through like YouTube videos. I've been banned off it, but the servers I play on don't use it. So yeah, at the moment I'm not running it. I don't know, I'm just don't really see it that useful. However, in a lot of my videos I do, and you guys ask questions. I've got a video on how to install reshade with that. You can ignore installing this if you don't want, or just have it unticked. It really doesn't matter, but just a heads up, Battlefield Agency can ban you if they find a video of you using it. It's not detectable or anything, but they are cringed like that, so just be wary of that. I've got a video on that on its own on my channel. I'll put that in the description as well, just so you can watch it and find out what I'm talking about properly. So yeah, so I've got a bunch of different ini files that I can just switch between. They just literally just change how the game's colors are, as I change my scenes all the time, as I mentioned in the start of my video here. So at the moment I'm running with this preset. I think it looks very nice, very photorealistic, nice, and gets rid of that muddy brown color of the default game. So that being said, I will go on to some other very important things. The reason why I'm playing a low resolution, it looks crisp, is because of something. And sorry, NVIDIA users, this is I don't know, I'm sure there's something for NVIDIA like it, but this is for AMD. You go to gaming and Radeon Super Resolution, have that enabled. So pretty much with this turned off, see how it's way less crisp. It's not as sharp. I mean, it still looks okay, but this isn't that bad. But if I go down to a lower resolution, such as 4:3, it can look very yuck. So what Radeon Super Resolution does is when you're playing a lower resolution than the default, you can change the sharpening effect, and what it does is just makes it look sharper. So for me, it makes playing low resolution bearable, makes it look actually pretty nice if you ask me. Must have if you're an AMD user and you want to play something other than the default res. Another thing important to note is that I am running a color setting called Vivid Gaming. Doesn't make too big of a difference. This is a monitor thing, so I'm not sure if it'll show up on the video, but pretty much just makes everything look a little more vibrant. Definitely recommend if that's your thing. And yeah, one last thing that I will cover is user.cfg file. This is just something you can put in your Battlefield directory on your computer. I do have some important settings such as PerfOverlay.DrawFps1. That pretty much allows my game to have that big green FPS counter in the right corner. I'll put this in the description. That pretty much just gives you a few extra FPS. It doesn't really matter too much, but I have it anyway. And another important thing is GameTime.MaxVariableFPS0. That will uncap the FPS from 200 or 300 or whatever the game sets the max as by default. Very nice, must have in my opinion. And you can change the value on this to what you want it to be capped as. So you can change it to 300 if you want your FPS to be capped at 300 to stop coil whine or something. It really doesn't matter. I have it uncapped just because I want as much FPS as possible. With that being said, also just for resolutions, if you're using that AMD Super Resolution thing, make sure both height and the width values are lower than the default, or else it won't work. So you want to use a resolution lower than this on both values. And also make sure the resolution you have in it selected is set to your monitor's max refresh rate. So that being said, one other thing I will cover is field of view scaling in ADS. With this off, oh whoops, I just set it to default, doesn't really matter, but whoops. well, okay, so if you have this turned off, when you zoom in, you'll zoom in quite a lot when you right click. With this on, it's not as bad. It just zooms in a little. Recommend it for movement, makes it so much nicer. Yeah, well, that being said, that's pretty much the end of my graphic settings. If you've got anything else or I didn't cover anything, ask me in the description. I will put a link to my unlisted reshade video in my description. Only reason it's unlisted is because it does show you how to get that X here, which is bannable if they get evidence of using it, so I don't want to ban people. That's the last thing I want to do to you guys. But yeah, post videos with the X here at your own risk if you would like. But that being said, you don't have to install it, just ignore that part of the video, install reshade like default, and there's no downsides at all and no risk of you being banned. Yeah, just I'll also put my Discord link in the description. And I will post these presets that I've made in there, so you can have my exact reshade presets that you just make it. Sorry, drag. So any file, they're literally just any files that with stuff with variables for the reshade. And if you want to make like a copy of mine but don't want to like overrule mine, what I do all the time is I make a copy, just paste it, rename it, and then it'll show up in your overlay. So for example, I just made a copy, this will now show up and I can change this however I want without any risk to the default one. Very important. I cover that in the tutorial video though for reshade. Yeah, that being said, I hope this was helpful. Ask me anything else in the description if you want to, and yeah, peace out guys.